Maya had always been the heart of her family. Every birthday party, every holiday dinner, every celebration, she was the one making it happen. Her phone never stopped ringing. Cousins called her when they fought with their parents. Aunts asked her to help plan weddings. Even her grandmother would say, "Call Maya, she'll fix it." At 28, Maya lived for these moments. She kept everyone's birthdays written in a little notebook. She knew who was fighting with whom and always tried to make peace. When her uncle lost his job, Maya organized a family fundraiser. When her cousin needed help moving, Maya rented the truck and gathered volunteers. Being needed felt like love. To her. Then David walked into her coffee shop one rainy Tuesday morning. He was different from the men her family expected her to marry. David spoke softly, read poetry, and came from a completely different background. But when he smiled at Maya, something inside her heart woke up. For the first time in her life, she felt seen, not as the family helper, but as herself. Their love story unfolded slowly, like pages in a favorite book. David would wait for her after work with hot chocolate. He listened when she talked about her dreams of traveling. He never asked her to solve his problems or fix anything for him. Instead, he wanted to know what made her laugh, what scared her, what she hoped for when she closed her eyes at night. Maya knew her family would have questions. They had strong ideas about who she should marry, what her wedding should look like, how her life should unfold. She had watched other cousins face disapproval for smaller choices, but love made her brave in ways she never expected. When she finally brought David home for dinner, the room went quiet. Her mother served food with tight lips. Her father asked polite but cold questions. Her aunts whispered in the kitchen. Maya felt the chill in the air, but she held David's hand under the table and hoped love would be enough. It wasn't. The phone call started the next day. Her mother cried, asking how Maya could do this to the family. Her father gave speeches about tradition and respect. Her aunts took turns calling to explain why this marriage would bring shame to everyone, even her beloved grandmother. The woman who had taught Maya to bake cookies and braid hair turned away when Maya tried to visit. "Choose your family or choose him," her mother said during one particularly painful conversation. "You cannot have both." Maya felt like she was drowning. These were the people who had raised her, loved her, shaped her into who she was. How could she exist without them? But how could she exist without David, who had shown her what it felt like to be truly loved? The wedding planning became a nightmare. Every vendor her family had recommended suddenly became unavailable. The church where 3 generations of family, brides had married was no longer an option. Her mother refused to help choose a dress. Her sisters, who she had imagined as bridesmaids since childhood, said they couldn't be part of something that would hurt the family. Maya found herself planning her own wedding. Like a stranger in her own life, she picked flowers alone. She tasted cakes with only David beside her. She tried on dresses while the shop assistant made small talk about how excited her mother must be. And Maya just smiled and changed the subject. The worst part was the silence. Her phone, which used to buzz constantly with family messages, became eerily quiet. No one asked how wedding planning was going. No one wanted to hear about her dress or the flowers or how nervous and excited she felt. The people who had been her whole world acted like she had simply disappeared. 2 weeks before the wedding, Maya sat in her empty apartment looking at 40 invitation responses. 37 said no. Some didn't even respond at all. Others sent back cards with curt messages about prior commitments or family obligations. Only 3 family members, her youngest cousin Louise, her Aunt Rosa, and her great-uncle Pablo, planned to attend. Maya cried until her eyes were swollen. She had always imagined her wedding day surrounded by the people who loved her most. Instead, she would walk down the aisle to faces she barely knew. David's friends, a few co-workers, and 3 family members sitting in an ocean of empty chairs. David found her that night, curled up on the couch with tissues scattered around her like fallen leaves. He didn't say anything at first. He just sat beside her and held her hand while she cried. "Maybe they're right," Maya whispered. "Maybe I'm being selfish. Maybe I should call it off. David was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Maya, I love you enough to let you go if that's what you really want. But don't leave me because you're scared. Leave me because you don't love me anymore. She looked at his face, kind and patient even in his own heartbreak. She thought about the past year, how he had made her laugh during her worst days, how he brought her soup when she was sick, how he listened to her dreams, and never once tried to make them smaller. I do love you, she said. I love you so much it scares me. Then let's get married. He said simply, and we'll figure out the rest together. The wedding day arrived gray and drizzly, matching Maya's mood. As she got ready in a small room at the venue, she kept checking her phone, hoping for last-minute messages from family members who had changed their minds. None came. Walking down the aisle, Maya saw David waiting for her with tears in his eyes. She saw the 3 family members who had chosen love over tradition. She saw David's parents, who had welcomed her with open arms from day one. She saw friends from work who had become like family over the years. But she also felt the weight of all the empty chairs, all the missing faces, all the people who had chosen to stay away rather than celebrate her. Happiness. After the ceremony, during the small reception, Maya's Aunt Rosa pulled her aside. You know I love you, child, she said. But this is going to be harder than you think. When you need family and they're not there, it's going to hurt in ways you can't imagine yet. Maya nodded, trying to be brave. But late that night, after the guests had gone home and the decorations were put away, she sat in her wedding dress and cried for the family she had lost. She had gained a husband, but she felt like she had lost herself. The woman who had always been surrounded by family, who had always been needed and wanted and included, was now truly alone for the first time in her life, and she had no idea how she was going to survive it. 3 months after her wedding, Maya was drowning in silence. The apartment she shared with David fell to quiet without constant family phone calls. Weekends stretched endlessly without birthday parties to plan or family dinners to attend. She had tried calling her mother twice, but both times the conversation lasted less than 5 minutes before her mother found an excuse to hang up. Work became Maya's escape. At City General Hospital, she could focus on other people's problems instead of her own broken heart. As a nurse on the night shift, she found comfort in the routine of checking on patients, updating charts, and making sure everyone was comfortable through the dark hours. That's when she met Eleanor. Eleanor Chen arrived on a Tuesday night, brought in by ambulance after collapsing in her small apartment. She was 82 years old, thin as a bird, with silver hair that had been carefully styled despite her emergency. What struck me most was that Eleanor had arrived completely alone. No worried family members paced the waiting room. No one called asking for updates, emergency contact. Maya asked gently while taking Eleanor's information. Eleanor was quiet for a moment, staring at her hands. There isn't anyone, she said finally. My children, we don't speak anymore. Maya felt something familiar twist in her chest. She had seen many elderly patients with no visitors, but something about Eleanor's quiet dignity reminded her of her own grandmother, the grandmother who now refused to see her. Eleanor was admitted for observation after some heart irregularities. Maya wasn't assigned to her floor, but she found herself checking on Eleanor during her breaks. The older woman was always awake, sitting up in bed reading books from the hospital library or staring out the window at the city. Lights, can't sleep? Maya asked one night, poking her head into Eleanor's room. Sleep comes harder when you get old. Eleanor replied with a small smile. Besides, I like the quiet. It's peaceful here. Maya sat down in the chair beside Eleanor's bed. I'm Maya. I work downstairs in the emergency department, Eleanor. And you're very kind to check on an old woman you don't even know, sometimes. Kindness is all we have, Maya said, surprising herself with the honesty. That became the routine. Every night during Maya's dinner break, she would visit Eleanor's room. They started with small talk about the weather and hospital food, but gradually their conversations grew deeper. Eleanor was a retired teacher who had spent 40 years working with children. She had been married to her husband Robert for 53 years before he passed away 5 years earlier. "Tell me about your family," Eleanor said one night. "You have that look of someone who comes from a big, loving family." Maya's throat tightened. "I used to," she said quietly. "But things changed when I got married." Eleanor nodded knowingly. "Let me guess, you married someone they didn't approve of. How did you know?" Eleanor's laugh was bitter, but not unkind. "Because I lived the same story 60 years ago. My parents wanted me to marry a nice Chinese man from our community. Instead, I fell in love with Robert, who was Irish and Catholic, and everything they thought was wrong for me." Maya leaned forward. "What happened?" "They gave me the same choice your family probably gave you. Choose them or choose love. I chose love, and for the first 10 years of my marriage, I thought I had made a terrible mistake." "But you said you were married for 53 years. It worked out, right?" Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. "The marriage was beautiful. Robert was the love of my life, and we had two wonderful children together. But the loneliness nearly killed me those first years. I kept thinking my parents would come around. That time would heal everything. I waited for phone calls that never came. I sent birthday cards that were never answered. I showed up at family gatherings where I was ignored." Maya felt tears gathering in her eyes. "That sounds awful." It was. "But you know what I learned? The people who truly love you don't make you choose between your happiness and their approval. Love doesn't come with conditions. But they were your family. Didn't that mean something?" Eleanor reached over and patted Maya's hand. "Family isn't about blood, dear. It's about who shows up when life gets hard. It's about who celebrates your joys and holds you through your sorrows. My parents never did that for me after I married Robert. But you know who did?" Maya shook her head. "My neighbors, Robert's sister, the other teachers at my school, a lady from the grocery store who noticed I always shopped alone and started inviting me for coffee. These people became my real family. They loved me without conditions, supported me without judgment. What about your children? Do they understand?" Eleanor's face clouded over. "That's where I failed. I was so afraid of losing anyone else that I became too protective, too controlling. When my daughter wanted to move across the country for her career, I begged her not to go. When my son wanted to marry a woman I didn't think was good enough, I voiced my disapproval too strongly. I became the parent I had run away from." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. Do you still talk to them?" "No. And that's my biggest regret. I learned too late that love means letting people make their own choices, even when those choices scare you. My children think I'm a hypocrite. I fought for my right to choose my own life, but then tried to control theirs." They sat in silence. For a while, both lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Maya asked, "Do you ever regret marrying Robert?" Eleanor's face lit up with the first genuine smile Maya had seen from her. "Never. Not for one single day. Those 53 years with him were worth every moment of pain that came before. He taught me what real love looked like. He showed me that I was worthy of being chosen, not just useful for what I could do for others." "I think I needed to hear that," Maya whispered. "You're still young, dear. You have time to build a beautiful life with people who truly see you. Don't waste yours waiting for approval that may never come. Start creating your own family from the people who show up with open hearts." Over the next 2 weeks, Eleanor's condition improved, but she was lonely during discharge planning. She had nowhere to go except back to her empty apartment. Maya found herself thinking about Eleanor constantly, even when she wasn't at work. "David," Maya said one evening after work, "there's this patient I've been talking to. She's being discharged tomorrow, but she has no one to help her get settled at home." David looked up from his book. "What are you thinking? Maybe we could invite her for dinner this weekend, just to make sure she's okay?" David smiled, the same gentle smile that had made Maya fall in love with him. "I think that's a wonderful idea." When Maya asked Eleanor about dinner, the older woman's eyes filled with tears. "You would do that for me, but you barely know me. Sometimes the best families are the ones we choose," Maya said, repeating Eleanor's words back to her. That Saturday, Eleanor came to dinner wearing her best dress and carrying a homemade pie. She and David hit it off immediately. bonding over their shared love of old movies and crossword puzzles. As Maya watched them laugh together over dessert, she realized something had shifted inside her chest. For the first time since her wedding, she didn't feel completely alone. Eleanor wasn't her grandmother, and David's quiet presence wasn't the same as her loud, chaotic family. But sitting around their small kitchen table, Maya felt something she had almost forgotten, the warmth of being wanted, not for what she could do, but simply for who she was. When Eleanor left that night, she hugged Maya tightly. "Thank you for seeing an old woman who needed a friend," she whispered. "Thank you for showing me what family really means," Maya whispered back. As she watched Eleanor's taxi disappear into the night, Maya realized that maybe losing her birth family didn't mean she had to be alone forever. Maybe it just meant she was free to build something new, something chosen, something real. Eleanor's words about chosen family kept echoing in Maya's mind. At first, the idea seemed impossible. How do you create a family from nothing? But slowly, Maya started noticing the people who were already in her life, the ones she had been too heartbroken to see clearly. It started with Priya, the young nurse who worked the same night shift. Priya was 24, fresh out of nursing school, and far from her own family in another state. She often ate dinner alone in the hospital cafeteria, scrolling through her phone with a lonely expression that Maya recognized all too well. "Want to grab coffee after work?" Maya asked one Thursday morning as their shift ended. Priya's face lit up. "Really? I mean, yes, I'd love that." They went to the same coffee shop where Maya had first met David, over steaming cups and fresh pastries. Priya shared her story. She had moved across the country for nursing school and stayed for her job. But making friends as an adult was harder than she had expected. Her family called once a week, but they felt like strangers now, more interested in her paycheck than her happiness. "Sometimes I wonder if I made a mistake leaving home," Priya admitted. "Everyone there thinks I'm crazy for choosing work over getting married and having babies." Maya smiled sadly. "I know that feeling. Sometimes doing what's right for you feels like the loneliest thing in the world." Their coffee dates became a weekly tradition. Then Priya started joining Maya and Eleanor for their Saturday dinners. David loved having more people around the table, and Eleanor treated Priya like the granddaughter she had never gotten to know. Next came Carlos, the security guard who worked weekends at the hospital. Maya had always exchanged pleasantries with him, but one busy Saturday night, she noticed him eating a sad sandwich alone in the break room. His eyes were red, like he had been crying. "Rough night?" Maya asked gently. Carlos looked embarrassed. "My daughter's birthday party is tomorrow. My ex-wife says I can't come because her new husband doesn't want me there. I haven't missed one of her birthdays in 8 years, but apparently that doesn't matter anymore." Maya's heart ached for him. "How old is she turning?" 7. She loves princesses and chocolate cake and those little books about magic ponies. His voice cracked. "I already bought her present, but I don't know when I'll get to give it to her." Without thinking, Maya said, "Why don't you come to dinner at our place tomorrow? We can't replace your daughter's party, but maybe being around people who care about you will help." Carlos looked surprised. "You don't have to do that. We barely know each other. That's what makes it perfect," Maya said. "No expectations. No complications. Just good food and people who think you're worth celebrating." That Sunday dinner was magical. Carlos brought stories about his daughter and photos on his phone. Eleanor made her famous apple pie. Priya taught everyone a card game her grandmother had shown her. David played quiet music on his guitar. Maya looked around the table and realized she felt fuller than she had in months, not from food, but from connection. "You know what?" Eleanor said as they cleared dishes. "We should do this every week. Make it official. Sunday family dinner." Priya agreed excitedly. "I'd like that." Carlos said quietly, "I'd really like that." Maya felt tears in her eyes, but for once, they were happy tears. Their chosen family grew organically. Rita, the cleaning lady who worked nights and never had anyone to talk to during her breaks. Ben, the young paramedic who had moved to the city from a small town and missed having people to share meals with. Lisa, the social worker who spent her days helping other people's families, but went home to an empty apartment every night. Each person brought their own story of loneliness, their own reason for needing connection. But together, they created something beautiful. Sunday dinners became the highlight of everyone's week. They celebrated birthdays with homemade cakes and silly games. When Carlos finally got to see his daughter again, everyone cheered like it was their own victory. Maya started keeping a calendar again, just like she used to for her birth family. But this time, it was different. Instead of obligation, there was joy. Instead of trying to fix everyone's problems, she simply offered presence and support. Eleanor became the grandmother figure they all needed. She taught Priya how to make traditional dumplings. She listened to Carlos practice what he would say when he called his daughter. She gave Rita advice about dealing with difficult teenagers. When Rita's nephew came to live with her, "You've created something special here," Eleanor told Maya one evening as they watched David teach Ben how to play guitar. "This is what family really looks like." Maya smiled, watching her chosen family laugh and talk around her living room. "I learned from the best teacher." But the real test was coming, and Maya didn't know it yet. 2 years after her wedding, Maya thought she had figured out how to be happy without her birth family. Her chosen family filled most of the empty spaces in her heart. She had learned to celebrate holidays with people who actually wanted to be there. Sunday dinners were sacred, and everyone protected that time together. Then David got sick. It started with headaches he dismissed as work stress. Then came the dizziness, the moments when he would forget what he was saying mid-sentence. Maya insisted he see a doctor, using her nurse instincts to push past his stubborn resistance. The diagnosis hit like a lightning bolt. A brain tumor, not cancerous, but growing in a dangerous location. The surgery would be risky, and recovery would take months. David would need constant care, multiple treatments, and there was no guarantee he would be the same person afterward. Maya felt her world tilt sideways. She had been strong through family rejection, had built a new life from nothing. But the thought of losing David terrified her in ways she couldn't name. The news spread through their chosen family quickly. Eleanor cried when Maya told her. Priya immediately offered to switch shifts to help with David's care. Carlos started researching the best specialists in the city. Everyone rallied around them with the fierce loyalty that only comes from truly choosing to love someone. But Maya's birth family found out too. Her cousin Luis, the one family member who had attended her wedding, called on a Tuesday evening. "Maya, I heard about David. Mom told me. The whole family knows." Maya's stomach dropped. "What are they saying?" "They want to help. Mom says you can come home now, that they'll take care of you during this difficult time." And David, Luis was quiet. For a moment, they think this is a sign that maybe God is giving you a way out of a marriage that was never meant to be. Maya felt rage building in her chest, hot and fierce. "A way out, Luis. David isn't a mistake I need to escape from. He's my husband, and I love him. I know. I know. But Maya, think about it practically. You're going to need help. Real family support. If you come home, everything could go back to how it was before." "What about David?" "Well, if the surgery doesn't go well," Luis couldn't finish the sentence. Maya hung up the phone and immediately called her mother. The conversation was short and painful. "We've always loved you," her mother said. "This situation just proves that some choices lead to suffering. Come home. Let us take care of you, and when this is all over, we can find you a good man from our community." "When this is all over?" Maya's voice was deadly quiet. "You mean when my husband dies?" "I didn't say that. You didn't have to. You're offering to help me only if I abandon the man I promised to love in sickness and in health. That's not love. Mom, that's not family. You're being dramatic. We're trying to help. No, you're trying to control. And I'm done with that." Maya hung up and immediately called Eleanor. "They want me to leave him." Maya sobbed into the phone. "My own family is treating David's illness like an opportunity for me to come crawling back." Eleanor's voice was steel. "And what did you tell them? That they're not my family anymore?" "Not really. Good girl. Now, what do you need?" That conversation changed everything. Maya realized that her birth family's conditional love wasn't love at all. It was manipulation disguised as caring. They only wanted her back on their terms, when she was vulnerable and broken, ready to accept their control. But her chosen family responded differently. Eleanor moved into their spare room to help with David's care. Priya arranged her schedule to drive David to treatments. Carlos organized a meal train so Maya never had to worry about cooking. Rita cleaned their apartment without being asked. Ben researched support groups for families dealing with brain surgery. Nobody asked Maya to make impossible choices. Nobody treated David's illness as anything other than a crisis to face together. They loved her by showing up, by staying present, by offering practical help without judgment or conditions. The surgery was scheduled for a Thursday morning. Maya hadn't slept in days, terrified of losing the man who had shown her what real love looked like. She sat in the waiting room surrounded by her chosen family, everyone taking turns holding her hands and bringing her coffee she couldn't drink. David's sister flew in from another state. His parents arrived from their retirement community. Maya watched David's birth family embrace her with the same unconditional love they had always shown. No one questioned her right to be there. No one suggested she should consider other options. She was David's wife, and that made her family, period. The contrast was stark and painful. David's family treated her like she belonged simply because David loved her. Her own birth family only offered conditional acceptance when she was at her weakest moment. The surgery took 8 hours. Maya paced the hospital corridors, praying to every god she could think of. Eleanor sat quietly in the corner, knitting a blanket for David's recovery. Priya brought updates from her nurse friends in the operating room. Carlos kept everyone fed and hydrated. When the surgeon finally emerged, exhausted but smiling, Maya nearly collapsed with relief. The surgery had gone well. David would need months of recovery, but he was going to be okay. Maya realized something profound as she sat beside David's hospital bed that night, watching him sleep peacefully for the first time in weeks. Her birth family had offered to rescue her from her life, but her chosen family had helped her save it. 5 years after her wedding, Maya barely recognized the woman she used to be. The person who had once needed constant family approval, who had measured her worth by how much others needed her, had become someone entirely different. She had learned the difference between being needed and being loved, between family obligation and family choice. David recovered completely from his surgery, though the experience changed both of them. They had faced the possibility of loss together and come out stronger. He went back to work with a new appreciation for simple moments. Maya learned that real love meant supporting someone through their worst fears, not trying to fix or change them. Their Sunday family dinners had evolved into something beautiful and complex. Eleanor, now 87, still lived independently but spent most evenings at Maya and David's apartment. She had become the grandmother figure to everyone, dispensing wisdom and homemade cookies in equal measure. Priya had been promoted to charge nurse and was engaged to Ben, the paramedic who had joined their family 3 years earlier. They were planning a wedding that would include their chosen family. As prominently as their birth families, Maya was helping plan the celebration, but this time it felt joyful instead of desperate. Carlos had finally worked out a custody arrangement with his ex-wife. His daughter Isabella, now 12, sometimes joined their Sunday dinners. She adored Eleanor and called Maya Tia, which made Maya's heart full every time. The group had grown to include Rita's nephew Tony, who was now in college studying social work. Lisa had gotten married to a wonderful man who embraced their entire chosen family with enthusiasm. New people joined occasionally, co-workers who needed connection, neighbors who seemed lonely, friends of friends who were looking for belonging. Maya had started a support group at the hospital for healthcare workers, dealing with family estrangement. Once a month, she facilitated discussions for nurses, doctors, and support staff who had been rejected by their birth families for various reasons. The group was small but growing, and Maya found deep satisfaction in helping others navigate the path she had walked. The real test of how much Maya had grown came on a Tuesday evening in spring. Her phone rang. and she saw her cousin Luce's name on the screen. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Maya? Luce's voice was shaky. I need help. My daughter Sophia. She's 18, and she wants to study art in New York. My parents are furious. They want her to stay home, get married, have babies. She's talking about cutting ties with the family completely. If they don't support her dreams, Maya felt her heart race. What are you asking me? I don't know. I remember what happened with you, and I don't want to lose my daughter the way the family lost you. But I don't know how to stand up to everyone else. Maya was quiet for a long moment, thinking about the girl she had been, desperate for family approval. Luis, can I ask you something? Do you think Sophia's dreams are worth supporting? Yes? She's incredibly talented. She got a full scholarship to art school. She's worked so hard for this opportunity. Then support her, even if it means standing alone for a while. But the family will either come around or they won't. But Sophia will remember who believed in her when it mattered most. There was a long pause. Would you be willing to talk to her? She's heard stories about you over the years. I think she needs to know that choosing your own path doesn't mean you have to be alone forever. Maya felt tears in her eyes. Of course I'll talk to her. 2 weeks later, Sophia came to Sunday dinner. She was a beautiful, fierce 18-year-old with paint under her fingernails and stars in her eyes. Maya saw so much of her younger self in this girl. The longing for approval warring with the need for authenticity. Are you happy? Sophia asked Maya directly over dessert. I mean, was it worth losing everyone? Maya looked around the table at her chosen family. Eleanor was teaching Isabella a new card game. David and Ben were discussing music. Priya was showing Rita photos from her engagement party. Carlos was helping Tony with college applications. These people had become her roots, her safety net, her celebration crew. I didn't lose everyone. Maya said carefully, I lost people who only love me conditionally, but I gained people who love me exactly as I am. Doesn't it hurt, though? Not having your real family? This is my real family, Maya said gently. Blood doesn't make family, love does, choice does, showing up for each other does. Sophia nodded thoughtfully. My dad said you help other people going through this now. I try too, because I learned something important. The love we're capable of giving doesn't get smaller. When people reject us, if anything, it gets bigger. We just have to find the right people to give it to. After dinner, Maya walked Sophia to her car. The young woman hugged her tightly. Thank you for showing me that it's possible to be happy after losing family. You're not losing family, Maya corrected gently. You're making room for the family that's meant to find you. As Maya watched Sophia drive away, she thought about the scholarship fund she had started with Eleanor's inheritance. They gave money to students from non-traditional families who were pursuing healthcare careers. Every year, Maya attended the award ceremony and watched young people who had been rejected by their birth families receive support for their dreams from strangers who believed in them. David found her standing on their balcony, looking out at the city lights. Penny, for your thoughts? Maya leaned into his warmth. Just thinking about how different my life looks now than I thought it would. Better or worse? Maya smiled, thinking about the calendar on the refrigerator filled with chosen family birthdays, dinner dates, and celebration plans. Different, but definitely better. No regrets? Maya thought about her birth family, still living their lives without her. Sometimes she missed them with a sharp ache that took her breath away. But she had learned that missing someone doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. No regrets. She said firmly, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. That night, Maya fell asleep thinking about Eleanor's words from years ago. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when life gets hard. She had built a life surrounded by people who showed up, who chose her daily, who loved her without conditions. The woman who had once defined herself by others' approval had become someone who offered acceptance freely, creating the very belonging she had once lost. And in learning to love without conditions, she had finally found the unconditional love she had always craved.